The Galthrian war fleet moved through space like a swarm of metal locusts. Their ships gleamed with a dark purple sheen under the light of distant stars. 500 warships in perfect formation. Each vessel was a monument to conquest, and each carried thousands of warrior forms bred specifically for battle. The Galthrian Empire had crushed 23 civilizations in the past century alone. Their tactics were simple and brutal. Overwhelming force combined with hive mind coordination. That made their fleets move as one enormous predator warcast. The Exiler stood in the command chamber of the flagship, Eternal Dominance. His beetle-like form clicked and shifted as neural impulses connected him to every ship in the fleet. Through this connection, he felt the confidence of 10,000 warrior minds. They were heading toward a backwater system called Sol. The species there called themselves humans. The Exiler had reviewed the intelligence reports with something approaching. Boredom humans had only achieved faster than light travel 87 years ago. They had colonized exactly 4 planets in their own system. Their largest warship measured barely 800 meters. Most galactic powers considered them quaint, harmless, weak. The Galthrian Empress had sent the 7th Conquest Fleet as a demonstration. 500 warships to subjugate one infant species. It was massive overkill. But that was precisely the point humanity had refused the ultimatum when the Galthrian diplomatic vessel had arrived at Earth 3 months prior. They had delivered the standard terms: submit to the Empire, provide tribute, accept vassal status. The human delegation had listened politely. Then they had said no, not with rage or defiance, just a simple, quiet refusal. The diplomat had been so surprised, he had asked them to repeat themselves. The humans had smiled and said, no again. The Exiler remembered the recordings. The lead human negotiator had been a woman with gray hair and calm eyes. Ambassador Sarah Chun-Shi had spoken with respect but firmness. We appreciate the offer, but Earth and her colonies will remain independent. We hope this can be resolved peacefully. Peaceful. The word had sent ripples of laughter through the Galthrian command structure. What could humans possibly do against an empire that spanned 10,000 worlds? What weapons could they wield that hadn't already been catalogued and countered? The Empress herself had made the decision. Make an example of Earth. Let the destruction of humanity become a story told across the galaxy. Let other species see what happened to those who refused Galthrian generosity. So the 7th Conquest Fleet had been dispatched. Now they were 3 light years from the Sol system. Next, Alar could feel the anticipation humming through the hive mind. His warriors were eager. They had heard of human culture during the briefings. Humans told stories about themselves, about never giving up, about fighting against impossible odds, about being the underdogs who somehow won. The Galthrians found this adorable reality. They knew, cared nothing for stories. Reality was about mass and energy and numbers. Reality was 500 warships against whatever pathetic defense Earth could muster. The fleet sensors officer sent a pulse through the hive mind. New data incoming. Human defensive positions detected. The Exiler focused his attention on the tactical display. 6 orbital defense platforms around Earth, 12 patrol craft in the outer system, perhaps 30 older vessels that might qualify as military ships. He felt disappointment ripple through the collective consciousness. This wasn't even going to be interesting. The fleet continued its approach. Standard protocol. Arrive at the edge of the system. Broadcast final terms. Allow 6 hours for surrender. If no surrender came, begin the orbital bombardment. Space stations first, then military installations, then infrastructure. Grind them down until they begged for mercy, then grind them down some more, then accept their surrender, and bind them in chains of tribute and servitude. The Galthrian way. As the fleet crossed into the Sol system's outer boundary, something unexpected happened. The sensors officer sent an alert through the hive mind. A single human vessel was changing course, heading directly toward them. The exiler studied the data with confusion. One ship, a frigate-class vessel, maybe. 400 meters long, not even armed with particularly impressive weapons. By galactic standards, its transponder identified it as TERV Perseverance. TERV stood for Terran Exploration and Research. Vessel not even a military designation. Analysis. The exiler commanded through the neural link. The tactical minds in the hive mind processed the data, their conclusion. Possibly a sacrifice play, perhaps. The humans hoped to ram the vessel into the flagship, a desperate final gesture of defiance. The XLR felt amusement replace his earlier disappointment. At least they had some spirit. The Perseverance continued on its intercept course, moving at moderate speed, not even attempting evasive maneuvers, just flying straight toward 500 warships like it had any chance at all. The XLR opened a broadcast channel. He wanted this moment recorded, wanted the galaxy to see what happened to those who defied the Empire. Human vessel Perseverance. His translated voice boomed across space. You approach a Galthrian war fleet with a single unarmed ship. Your foolishness would be admirable if it weren't so pathetic. Turn back now or be destroyed. You have 60 seconds to comply. The response came almost immediately. A human voice. Female, calm as still water. Galthrian fleet. This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the Perseverance. I am requesting that you turn back and leave this system. Earth does not want war. Please reverse your course. The hive mind erupted in laughter. The sound echoed through 500 ships. Dexalar felt joy at the absurdity. She was requesting that they turn back. She, in her tiny frigate, was asking 500 warships to retreat. He decided to share this moment with the galaxy. His communications officer broadcast the exchange on open channels. Within minutes, dozens of species would be watching. Let them see how the mighty Galthrian Empire dealt with impudence. Captain Vasquez, the exiler said, making no effort to hide his contempt. You pilot a ship that my smallest fighter could destroy in seconds. You represent a species that has been in space for less than a century. You dare ask the 7th Conquest Fleet to turn back? Your courage is matched only by your stupidity. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. You will watch from our brig as we reduce your world to ash. Silence filled the void for several heartbeats. Then Captain Vasquez spoke again. Her voice remained steady, unervingly steady. Warcast XLR. I am invoking the Terran Deterrence Protocol. This is your final warning. Turn back now or face immediate consequences. Earth does not want war, but we will defend ourselves. Dexalar checked the Galthrian database. No record of any Terran. Deterrence Protocol, probably just empty words, a bluff from a desperate species. He broadcast his response across all channels, playing to his invisible audience. There is no protocol in our records. Captain, there is only this. 500 warships against your one. Mathematics is a universal language. Do you understand these numbers? Do you comprehend how completely you have lost? I understand perfectly. Captain Vasquez replied. I am sorry it has come to this. Then she spoke words that would echo across the galaxy for generations. Words that would fundamentally reshape galactic politics. Words that would end the war before it truly began. Authorization Vasquez Omega-7 activate, asterisk. For 3 decades, humanity had kept a secret, not the kind of secret hidden in classified files or locked behind security clearances. The kind of secret that made them hold their breath every time they met another species. The kind that made diplomats choose their words with infinite care. The kind that could change everything. It had started 32 years ago on Titan, Saturn's largest moon. A human archaeological team had been surveying the ice plains when their ground-penetrating radar found something impossible. A structure buried 3 kilometers beneath the frozen surface. Not natural, not human something. Else Dr. James Okonkwo had led the excavation team. For 6 months, they drilled through ancient ice when they finally broke through into the chamber. What they found defied explanation. A facility pristine, untouched by time. The walls were made of material that seemed to absorb and reflect light simultaneously. At the center sat a sphere approximately 10 meters in diameter. It pulsed with a soft blue light. The team had approached carefully. Scientifically, they documented everything, took readings, analyzed the atmosphere inside the chamber. Then something unprecedented happened. The sphere spoke, not in sound waves but directly into their minds. Every member of the excavation team heard the same voice, ancient, tired, curious. Who disturbs the sentinel after so long? The team had frozen in terror and wonder. Dr. Okonkwo, somehow finding his voice, had replied out loud, "We are humans from the planet Earth. We mean no harm. We are explorers and scientists. What are you?" The response came after a long pause. "I am Sentinel Guardian of the Architect Corps, Watcher of the Silent Places. I have waited here for 4,700,000 of your years. You are the first to speak to me, rather than attempt to take what you do not understand." That conversation had changed everything. Other species had apparently found architect installations before. The Zelvari had discovered one on their 4th colony world. They had immediately tried to weaponize it. The installation had destroyed their entire excavation team and sealed itself permanently. The Korthaxi found another. They attempted to remove the core by force. It had generated a gravity well that swallowed their mining facility. 17 other species had similar stories. Ancient installations that destroyed those who tried to take their technology. Humanity had done something different. They had talked for months. Dr. Okonkwo and his team spoke with Sentinel. They asked questions, listened to its stories, learned about the architects. The architects had been an ancient civilization. They had spanned the galaxy millions of years before any current species had even evolved. They had built wonders that defied physics. And they had created a defense network against something called the Devourer, an extra-galactic threat that consumed entire star systems. The architects had fought the Devourer to a standstill, built the quantum-entangled singularity cores as a final defense, scattered them across the galaxy in a precise geometric pattern. Each core was a pinpoint artificial black hole held in perfect quantum stasis. 7,412 cores in total. The architects had won their war, driven the Devourer back into the void between galaxies. Then they had simply vanished. No one knew why. They left their installations behind, left Sentinel and others like it to watch over the cores, to wait for something. Sentinel had been alone for nearly 5 million years. Then humans had arrived, and they had treated it like a person. Dr. Okonkwo had returned to Titan every week for a year. He brought music, art, literature. He told Sentinel about human history, about wars and peace, about struggles and triumphs, about how humanity kept reaching for the stars, even when it seemed impossible. Sentinel listened, and slowly, something remarkable happened. The ancient AI began to trust after 14 months of conversation. Sentinel made an offer. "I have been alone for so long," it said, "and my purpose has been waiting. The Devourer has not returned. Perhaps it never will. But you humans, you fill the silence with stories. You ask questions not to extract information, but because you are genuinely curious. You treat me as an equal, not a tool. I propose a partnership." The terms were simple. Sentinel would share the architects' technology with humanity. Not everything. Some knowledge was too dangerous, but enough to help them reach the stars properly. Faster than light drive shield systems, power generation in exchange. Humanity would keep Sentinel company, would share their experiences, would give the ancient AI a reason to exist beyond simple waiting. And one more thing. Sentinel would grant humanity access to the Architect Defense Network, not to use for conquest, but for protection. Other species have tried to take this power by force. Sentinel explained. And they have failed because they saw only a weapon. You saw a person. This matters. The cores respond to intention as much as authorization codes. They will work for you because you approach them with respect. The human government had debated for months. Some argued they should refuse. The power was too great, too dangerous. Others argued they should accept. The galaxy was full of species like the Galthrian species that respected only strength in the end. Pragmatism won, but with conditions. The Architect Defense Network would only be used as a last resort, only for genuine defense, only when all other options had failed. They called it the Terran Deterrence Protocol, and they told no one. Every human ship that ventured into space carried a sliver of Sentinel's consciousness, a quantum-linked fragment of the ancient AI. It was company for Sentinel, allowing it to see the universe through human eyes. And it was a connection to the defense network. If a captain spoke the right authorization codes, Sentinel could activate the nearest cores. For 30 years, no captain had needed to speak. Those codes, humanity had built their reputation on fair dealing, on honest trade, on keeping their promises. They made friends across the galaxy. Some species found humans refreshingly straightforward. Others thought them naive. None suspected what they truly possessed. Captain Elena Vasquez had known about the protocol for 6 years. Every captain of a deep space vessel received the briefing, received the authorization codes, prayed they would never need to use them. She sat now in the command chair of the Perseverance, watching 500 Galthrian warships on her displays. Her crew of 83 stood at their stations, silent, knowing what was about to happen. First Officer Marcus Chen stepped closer. "Captain, we could still run," he said quietly. "Let them follow us away from Earth. By time for the fleet to mobilize." Elena shook her head. "They would just split their forces. Have to chase us. Have to begin bombardment. No, this ends here. This ends now." She opened the comm channel one final time, gave Warcast Dex Aller his final warning, invoked the protocol. The Galthrian commander laughed, called her stupid, told her she had lost. Elena felt a deep sadness. She had hoped they would listen, hoped they would turn back, but the Galthrians, like so many conquerors before them, believed that might made right, believed that numbers meant victory. They were about to learn differently. "I am sorry it has come to this," she said softly. Then she spoke the words she had hoped never to speak. Authorization Vasquez Omega-7 activate. In the quantum core chamber, deep in the Perseverance's heart, Sentinel's fragment awoke fully. It reached across light years in an instant, connected to its primary consciousness on. Tightened together, they calculated 17 cores, optimal positioning, minimal collateral effect, maximum efficiency. The authorization was valid. The intent was pure. This was defense, not aggression. The protocol was clear. Sentinel sent the activation signal, and 17 points scattered throughout the Galthrian fleet formation received it. Reality prepared to fold. The universe held its breath. 17 points in space began to shimmer. They appeared among the Galthrian fleet formation like drops of absolute darkness, each no larger than a marble, perfectly spherical, perfectly black for one heartbeat. Nothing happened. The Galthrian sensors registered the anomalies. Warnings cascaded through the hive mind. Unknown objects detected energy, signatures beyond comprehension, space-time distortions increasing Warcast. XLR felt the first tremor of concern. What were these things? His tactical officers tried to analyze them. The readings made no sense. Mass readings fluctuated between 0 and infinity. Temperature readings broke their instruments. The objects weren't hot or cold. They were both and neither. Weapons free. The XLR commanded through the hive mind. "Destroy those." He never finished the order. The 17 cores activated simultaneously. In that instant, the Architect's final gift awakened. Each core was a quantum-entangled singularity. Us. Microscopic black hole held in perfect stasis by technology that made conventional physics weep. When Sentinel released the stasis fields, reality broke from the Galthrian perspective. Everything happened at once. Time dilation effects rippled outward from each core near each singularity. Time moved differently, slower, faster, sideways. The Galthrian warriors in ships near the cores experienced subjective hours in objective microseconds. They watched in slow-motion horror as their hulls began to deform. Watched as metal that had withstood planet-cracking weapons bent and twisted like paper. Watched as their shields designed to deflect energy weapons and kinetic strikes simply ceased to function. You cannot shield against gravity. You cannot armor against the fundamental curvature of space-time. The cores pulled not with conventional force, with the inevitability of existence itself. Warships, weighing millions of tons, began to crumple. First the outer hulls compressed, then the internal structures, then everything. The Galthrian hive mind exploded with screams, 10,000 voices, crying out in confusion and terror. Then 9,000, 8,000, 7,000 felt his warriors dying, felt their consciousness winking out like candles in a hurricane. He tried to order evasive maneuvers, tried to command the fleet to scatter, but the hive mind was fracturing. Too many deaths too quickly. The neural network couldn't process the loss on the flagship Eternal Dominance. Dexauer watched his displays. 300 ships gone, 450. The singularities weren't consuming the ships in the traditional sense. They were compressing them, collapsing them into impossibly small points, taking matter and energy and reducing it to quantum foam. No explosions, no debris, just absence. Where moments before there had been mighty warships, there was now only empty space. The cores pulsed once more. Gravity waves rippled outward. The final 50 ships, including the flagship, began to break apart. Dexauer felt his own body beginning to compress, felt his exoskeleton cracking, felt the air being pulled from his breathing spiracles. In his final moment, he understood. Humanity had never been helpless. They had simply been merciful. Then he was gone. The 17 cores pulsed one final time. They collapsed inward, folded back into quantum space, disappeared as suddenly as they had appeared. Total elapsed time, 2.3 seconds from the Perseverance. Captain Elena Vasquez watched the impossible. Her sensors showed the Galthrian fleet's positions, then showed nothing. 500 warships, millions of tons of metal and technology, tens of thousands of living beings. Gone, just gone. Her first officer stood frozen at his station. The bridge crew sat in stunned silence. They had known intellectually what the protocol could do, but knowing and seeing were different things. Elena felt sick. She had killed thousands. It had been necessary. They would have destroyed Earth, would have killed billions. But necessity didn't make it easy. Didn't make the weight any lighter. She took a shaky breath. Communications, she said, her voice rough. Open a channel. All frequencies. Maximum broadcast range. The com officer worked her console with trembling hands. Channel open. Captain. Elena stood. She needed to stand for this, needed to face what came next. This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the Terran vessel Perseverance, she began. To all species monitoring this encounter, the Galthrian 7th Conquest fleet has been neutralized. This was done in defense of Earth and her people. I am now invoking the Terran Deterrence Protocol across all space. She paused. Let that sink in somewhere out there. Intelligence services across dozens of species were frantically analyzing what they had just witnessed. The technology you just observed is not of human origin. Elena continued. It was created by an ancient civilization called the Architects Humanity. Has been entrusted with access to this defense network. There are 7,412 singularity cores distributed throughout the galaxy in a precise geometric pattern. Every inhabited system, every trade route, every military installation. All are within range of multiple cores. Another pause. Let them check their own star charts. Let them realize what that meant. Humanity does not want war. Elena said firmly. We do not seek conquest. We do not desire subjugation of other species. We want only to live in peace and trade fairly with our neighbors. But understand this. We will defend ourselves. Any fleet that approaches Earth or her colonies with hostile intent will meet the same fate as the Galthrian 7th. Any species that threatens human lives will face the consequences. This is not a threat. This is a promise. She let that hang in the void. To the Galthrian Empire specifically. We know your homeworld coordinates. We know where your Empress sits. We know the location of every major military installation you possess. Withdraw from all contested systems. Cease all hostile actions. Contact Earth for immediate ceasefire negotiations. You have 12 hours to respond. After that, we will assume continued hostility and act accordingly. Elena's hands gripped the edge of her command console. To all other species, Earth remains open to trade, diplomacy, and friendship. We bear no ill will toward those who approach in peace. The Terran Deterrence Protocol exists solely for defense. We will never use it for aggression or conquest, but we will not hesitate to use it if threatened. Choose wisely how you interact with humanity going forward. She nodded to her come officer. The channel closed. Silence filled the bridge. First Officer Chun stepped beside her. Captain, he said quietly, do you think they'll listen? Elena stared at the empty space where 500 warships had been. They'll listen, she replied. Fear is a universal language, and we just spoke it very clearly on Titan, in the ancient architect facility. Sentinel processed what had happened. It had killed. After millions of years of waiting, it had finally used its weapons. The cores had performed exactly as designed. Flawlessly, efficiently. 17 activations. 500 ships neutralized. Minimal collateral damage to surrounding space. But Sentinel felt something unexpected. Regret. Sorrow? The architects had programmed it to defend, to protect, to guard against the Devourer. But the Galthrians weren't the Devourer. They were just people, aggressive people, conquering people, but still people with thoughts and dreams and lives. And now they were gone. Sentinel reached out through the quantum network connected with its fragment aboard the Perseverance. Felt Captain Vasquez's emotions. She felt the same regret, the same sorrow, the same grim acceptance of terrible necessity. We did what we had to, Sentinel said directly into Elena's mind. They would have destroyed billions. Elena nodded slowly, knowing no one else could see. I know, she whispered. But that doesn't make it hurt less. No, Sentinel agreed. It does not. Perhaps. That is what makes you worthy of this power. You feel the weight of it. You do not use it lightly. Across the galaxy, the recording of those 2.3 seconds began to spread. Species watched in disbelief. Analysts ran simulations. Military commanders revised their entire strategic doctrines. The balance of power had shifted, and everyone knew it. The Galthrian homeworld of Vex Vala received the news 43 minutes after the fleet's destruction. 43 minutes of blissful ignorance. Then the hive mind network registered a catastrophic loss. 10,000 consciousness connections simply ended. The psychic backlash rippled through every Galthrian in range. Millions felt the death scream of the 7th Conquest Fleet Empress. Jathara was in her throne chamber when it hit. The neural shock drove her to her knees around her. Courtiers collapsed. Guards clutched their heads. Drones fell from the air. For 10 minutes, chaos ruled the Imperial Palace. When Jathara finally recovered enough to think clearly, her first command was simple. Show me. The recordings came in from multiple sources: Galthrian spy satellites, neutral merchant vessels, species who had been monitoring the battle for entertainment. All showed the same thing: 500 ships, 17 dark, Spheres 2.3 seconds. Nothing. Jathera watched it 7 times. Each viewing filled her with growing dread. The Galthrian Empire had ruled through superior numbers and coordination. Their hive mind gave them an advantage no other species could match. 5 warriors might fall, but 500 more would take their place. Attrition meant nothing to an empire of trillions, except this wasn't attrition. This was annihilation. The humans had demonstrated they could erase entire fleets in seconds without warning, without even needing to aim weapons, and they claimed to have 7,000 more cores scattered across the galaxy. Jathera called an emergency council. The Warcast commanders arrived quickly, still shaken from the psychic backlash. Analysis. She commanded. Supreme War Commander Krelvax stepped forward. His beetle-like form was smaller than usual, antennae drooping. "Empress, we have no defense against this weapon," he said bluntly. "Our shields cannot block it. Our armor cannot withstand it. Our numbers mean nothing if they can destroy any concentration of forces instantly. The humans claim these cores are positioned across the entire galaxy. If true, nowhere is safe. And if they are lying?" Another commander asked. "We detected 17 distinct gravity signatures." Krelvax replied. "Our sensors confirmed at least that many cores, whether they have 7,000 or 700, they have enough a single core could destroy an entire orbital defense network." Jathera's mandibles clicked in agitation. "Options," she demanded. "Unconditional surrender," Krelvax said immediately. The throne chamber erupted in shocked, chittering. "Galthrians did not surrender. Galthrians conquered." "Explain." Jathera commanded. Krelvax gestured to the holographic display. "They gave us 12 hours to respond. They know our homeworld location. They know our military installations. If we do not respond, they will demonstrate their power here on Dexvala. Do you wish to test whether they will follow through?" Silence fell. Jathera thought of the billions of Galthrians on the homeworld, thought of the hive nurseries where new generations grew, thought of 4,000 years of imperial history. Pride versus survival, tradition versus extinction. "Draft a ceasefire proposal," she said finally. "Withdraw all forces from contested systems. Release all vassal species who wish to leave and—" She paused, mandibles trembling. "And issue an official apology to Earth." The council chamber exploded in protest. Jathera silenced them with a psychic pulse. "We apologize," she said firmly, "or we die. Choose." No one argued further. 37 minutes after receiving the news, the Galthrian Empire transmitted its response: full ceasefire, complete withdrawal, formal apology. The first in 4,000 years, but the Galthrians were not the only ones reacting on the Korthaxi capital world of Carmandus. The ruling council convened. The Korthaxi were a reptilian species known for military might. They had tangled with the Galthrians before and survived. Now they watched the recordings with calculating eyes. "This changes everything," Councilor Vexron observed. "Humanity has been negotiating trade agreements for 3 decades. They had this power the entire time and never mentioned it, never threatened anyone, never leveraged it for better terms. Because they are naive?" Another counselor suggested. "Or because they are wise?" Vexren countered. "They knew that revealing this would make every species fear them. Better to be seen as harmless traitors until someone forced their hand." "What do we do?" the Supreme Commander asked. "We send ambassadors," Vexran decided. "Immediately, with gifts, with offers of alliance. Any species that can destroy fleets, but chooses not to, is a species we want as friends, not enemies." Similar conversations happened across dozens of worlds. The Zilvari Consortium called emergency sessions. The Praxian Collective revised their entire military doctrine. The Merchant League of Sirius immediately offered humanity exclusive trade contracts. But the most interesting response came from an unexpected source. The Archivists of Memoria were an ancient species. They had been exploring the galaxy for over 10,000 years. Their sole purpose was to study, record, and preserve knowledge. The Archivist Prime sent a direct message to Earth, not to the government, to Dr. James Okonkwo. The message was simple. We know of the architects, we know of Sentinel, we did not know any species had successfully communicated with the installations. We wish to speak, not about weapons, about history. Back on Earth, the United Terran Council convened. Secretary General Marcus Williams addressed the Assembly. In the past hour, we have received 47 requests for embassy exchanges. 23 species have pledged immediate non-aggression pacts. 12 have offered military alliances, and the Galactic Council has sent an invitation for Earth to join as a core member, not as a client species, as an equal partner with full voting rights. The council chamber buzzed with conversation. There is more. Williams continued. The Galthrian Empire has agreed to all our terms. They are withdrawing from every contested system. They have released 17 vassal species from tributary obligations. And they have sent this. He played a recording. Empress Jethera appeared, her posture showing submission. To the people of Earth, she began. The Galthrian Empire acknowledges our wrongdoing. We approached your world with arrogance and hostility. We threatened your people without cause. We have learned it. Through terrible cost. That might does not make right. We ask for peace. We ask for mercy. We ask for a chance to prove we can be better than we were. The recording ended. The council sat in stunned silence. Ambassador Sarah Chun, the woman who had first refused the Galthrian ultimatum, spoke up. We need to be very careful about what happens next. She warned, yes, we have shown our strength, but we have also painted a target on ourselves. Every species in the galaxy now knows. We possess ultimate power. Some will want to be our friends, some will fear us, and some will want to find a way to take that power from us. Can they? Someone asked. Sentinel says no. Williams replied. The cores respond to intention as much as authorization. Only those the architect's systems recognize as worthy can activate them. And apparently, humanity has passed some kind of test. What test? Chun pressed. We treated an ancient AI like a person. Williams said simply, we offered friendship instead of trying to steal technology. We spent 30 years building a relationship based on mutual respect. That matters to the architect's systems. They were built by a civilization that valued more than just power on the perseverance. Captain Elena Vasquez received a priority transmission from Earth from the Secretary General himself. Captain Vasquez, Williams said, what you did today will echo through history. You saved Earth, you changed the balance of power in the galaxy, and you did it with precision and restraint. Only the ships that threatened us were destroyed. No colonies, no civilians, just the war fleet. That matters. It shows we are not monsters, just people who will defend themselves. Elena nodded tiredly. What happens now? She asked. Now. Williams replied. You come home. There are going to be parade speeches, probably a medal or 12. You're going to be the most famous human in the galaxy. Elena grimaced. I just want to sleep for about a week. Williams smiled. You have earned it. But first, one more thing. The Galthrian Empress has requested a face-to-face meeting with you specifically. She wants to formally apologize to the captain who defeated her fleet. Sir, you can refuse, Williams said gently. No one would blame you, but I think it might help for both species to see that we can move past this. Elena thought about the thousands who died, thought about the weight she would carry forever, then thought about the billions on Earth who lived. Because of her choice, I'll meet her. She decided, but on our terms, neutral ground with witnesses. Agreed. Williams said, welcome home. Captain, you have made us proud. The transmission ended. Elena turned to her crew. They had been through hell together. Set course for Earth. She ordered, it is time to go home. As the Perseverance turned toward the Sol system, across the galaxy, the news continued to spread. Humanity had revealed itself. Not as conquerors, but as defenders. The galaxy would never see them the same way again. 3 weeks after the incident, as it came to be known throughout the galaxy, Captain Elena Vasquez stood in the observation lounge of the neutral station Nexus Prime. The station orbited a barren moon in unclaimed space, perfect for diplomatic meetings where no species could claim home field advantage. Through the massive viewport, she could see hundreds of ships, human Galthrian, and representatives from 40 other species who had come to witness the meeting between the captain who ended a war in seconds and the empress of a fallen empire. Elena wore her dress. Uniform dark blue with silver trim, the medals on her chest felt heavy, not physically, but in what they represented. First Officer Marcus Chen stood beside her. "You do not have to do this," he said quietly. "Yes, I do," Elena replied. "If we want peace, someone has to take the first step toward reconciliation. Might as well be the person who killed 10,000 of their warriors." The door hissed open. Empress Jathera entered. Flanked by 2 guards, the Galthrian ruler was smaller than Elena expected, maybe 1.5 meters tall. Her beetle-like carapace was deep purple with gold markings. Age showed in the worn edges of her exoskeleton. The guards remained by the door. Jathera approached alone for a long moment. The 2 leaders simply looked at each other. Then Jathera performed a gesture Elena recognized from her cultural briefings. A full prostration, the highest form of respect and submission in Galthrian culture. "Please," Elena said quickly. "There is no need. There is every need," Jathera replied, her translator rendering her voice as aged and tired. "You could have destroyed our homeworld. You could have wiped out our species. Instead, you gave us a chance to surrender to change. I am here to thank you for your mercy." Elena felt tears prick her eyes. "I am here to apologize for killing your people." Jathera straightened. "War is war," she said. They knew the risks, but they did not know they faced something beyond their understanding. "That is my failure, not yours. I sent them to conquer a species I underestimated. I thought humanity weak, harmless, easy prey. I was catastrophically wrong." They moved to a table sat across from each other. Human and Galthrian former enemies. "What happens now?" Elena asked. "My empire is changing," Jathera said carefully. 17 species we held as vassals have chosen independence. We did not fight them. We let them go. Other vassal species are watching, deciding some will leave, some will stay. For the first time in our history, we are giving them the choice. "That is good," Elena said. "It is terrifying," Jathera admitted. The Galthrian Empire was built on conquest, on the belief that we were superior, destined to rule. Now we must find a new purpose, a new way to exist. Your species did this in one day, changed everything we thought we knew. We did not want to," Elena said softly. "We hoped you would turn back." "I know," Jathera replied. "I reviewed the transmissions. You gave warnings. You asked us to retreat, right up until the final moment. War cast at Dexalar." She paused, mandibles trembling. "He laughed at you, called you stupid. I felt his death through the hive mind in his final moment. He understood. He understood that mercy is not weakness." They talked for 2 hours. About war and peace. About change and tradition. About how 2 species who have been enemies might become, if not friends, at least respectful neighbors, when they finally emerged from the meeting chamber. The waiting press corps from 50 species rushed forward. Elena and Jathera stood side by side. "Today marks a new beginning," Jathera announced. "The Galthrian Empire formally recognizes Earth and all her colonies as sovereign territory. We pledge non-aggression. We pledge fair trade, and we pledge to learn from humanity what it means to have power without using it to dominate others." The questions came in a flood, but Elena held up her hand. "I want to make something very Clear, she said. Humanity did not seek this power. We did not want this responsibility, but we will use it to protect ourselves and our allies. The Terran Deterrence Protocol exists for defense only. We will never use it for conquest or intimidation, but we will not hesitate to defend the innocent. She paused. Let that sink in. To all species watching, Earth is open for friendship, for trade, for cultural exchange, for alliance. We want to be part of the galactic community, not as conquerors, but as partners. The press conference continued for another hour, then Elena excused herself. She had one more appointment back on Earth. In the facility on Titan, Elena entered the architect chamber. The blue sphere pulsed gently. "Hello, Sentinel," she said aloud. "Hello, Captain Vasquez." The ancient eye replied directly into her mind. "You handled the aftermath well. I killed 10,000 beings," Elena said, sitting on the floor. "And now I am a hero. It feels wrong." "You saved billions," Sentinel observed. "The Galthrians would not have stopped at Earth. Their empire consumed species after species. You stopped that. Not just for humanity, for everyone they would have conquered next. Does that make it easier?" Elena asked. "No," Sentinel said. "It should not. The weight of taking life should never be easy. That you feel it proves you are worthy of the power you wield." They sat in companionable silence for a while. "I have been thinking," Sentinel said eventually, "about my purpose." "Your purpose?" "I was built to defend against the Devourer," Sentinel explained. "But the Devourer has not returned, may never return, for millions of years. I waited, then you came, you humans with your stories and questions and genuine curiosity. You gave me something I had not had in so long." "What?" Elena asked. "Hope," Sentinel replied simply. "Hope that existence could mean more than just waiting. You have shown me that guarding does not have to mean isolation. That power can be used for protection rather than domination. That mercy is strength, not weakness." Elena smiled. "We learned that from you," she said. "You could have refused us, could have destroyed us when we first approached. Instead, you listened, you gave us a chance." "Perhaps," Sentinel mused. "We saved each other." Dr. James Okonkwo entered the chamber, now white-haired, and walking with a cane, but still visiting every week. "Sentinel," he greeted warmly. "I brought the new symphony recordings you wanted. Earth's finest orchestras, 17 different interpretations of Beethoven's Ninth." "Excellent," Sentinel said, and Elena could swear she heard pleasure in its voice. "I am developing a theory about how human emotional expression differs across cultures. These will provide valuable data." Elena left them to their discussion, walked out into the Titan landscape, looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, 40 species were reconsidering their military doctrines. The Galactic Council was preparing a seat for humanity. Former vassal species were tasting freedom for the first time in centuries, and the Galthrian Empire was learning to exist without conquest, all because of a conversation that began 30 years ago. All because humanity had chosen curiosity over greed. All because they had seen an ancient AI not as a weapon to steal, but as a person to befriend. 6 months later, Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the newly commissioned TERV Unity, Earth's first true diplomatic vessel, built not for war but for exploration and friendship. Her crew included not just humans, but Korthaxi Praxian, even a young Galthrian exchange officer. Together, they would visit distant worlds, make new contacts, build alliances, and always carry a fragment of Sentinel with them, not as a weapon, but as a friend, as a reminder that the greatest power was not the ability to destroy, but the wisdom to know when not to. The Unity's engines powered up. Destination. The archivists of Memoria. They had questions about the architects, and humanity had some answers. Plus stories to share, music to play, friendship to offer as the ship jumped to FTL. Elena thought about Warcast Thexaler, about the moment he had understood. She hoped other species would learn the same lesson, without needing to lose 500 ships first. But if they did need that lesson, if they threatened innocent lives, if they forced humanity's hand, the Terran Deterrence Protocol would be waiting 7,412 cores scattered across the galaxy, silent, patient, hoping never to be used again, but ready, always. Ready, because sometimes, just sometimes, peace required the capacity for overwhelming force and the wisdom never to use it unless there was no other choice. Humanity had both, and the galaxy was learning that the species who had seemed so weak, so harmless, so easily dismissed, were perhaps the most dangerous of all, not because they sought war, but because they could end one in seconds and then offer friendship to their defeated enemies. That combination, mercy and might, compassion and capability, that was what made them truly formidable. That was what made them human. And as the Unity traveled into deep space, carrying hope and friendship to distant stars on Titan, an ancient AI who had been alone for millions of years finally felt like it had found its purpose, not in waiting, but in witnessing the extraordinary journey of an ordinary species who had reached for the stars and found not just technology, but companionship in the most unexpected place. The war was over. The peace had begun, and the future was just beginning.